Trials of a Royal Guard. By Ansel. Chapter 12. Ruler of the Night. Thunder Tumble and I sat across from each other on his bed, playing cards. This wasn't my sort of game at all, but he enjoyed it. It did make me miss playing more advanced games with Runic and the gang. "Do you have any sevens?" he asked. "Yet." I gave him 2 cards. Thunder Tumble looked at the cards and shook his head. "These are 9s. Hey? Oh, sorry. Here." It was almost interesting how difficult it was to pay attention to this game. Not interesting enough to keep me from getting bored, though. "Thanks. Do you have any 9s? I asked. "Go fish." I drew a card. It was a 6. "Your turn. Do you have any 9s? He asked. "Oh, come on." Thunder Tumble grinned and took the cards back. "Sorry, Major. You're awful at this game." I snorted. Yet. The door to our shared space opened, drawing our attention. It didn't take much to draw our attention these days. Being in a hospital was painfully boring and slow. "Div!" Thunder exclaimed, bounced, and then winced. "Ow! Div!" Sure enough, Div was standing in our room decked out in his house guard armor. The new kind that was based off the suit I'd gotten a lifetime ago. "Hey, Tumble." "Sir." "Not that I'm not thrilled to see you, but what are you doing here?" I asked. Div cleared his throat and idly brushed a hoof by his helmet. "We heard you 2 showed up on the wounded list, so," he stepped out of the way just in time for Princess Luna to trot in. Miley hooves, lightning flash, and midnight snow were right on her tail, trying to keep up with her long alicorn strides. "I came as soon as I could," the princess said, sweeping the pair of us up into her magic. "From Canterlot." Tumble squeaked, his legs wiggling as we flew closer to the large, somewhat crazed-looking alicorn. We were in a routine meeting with King Ranald. Princess Luna had given Miley Hooves instructions to watch the WIA, missing in action, and Kia lists for certain names. Miley showed the princess against my orders, I might add, and here we are, Midnight Snow explained. Miley's ears wiggled. "I can't help it. She doesn't take no for an answer." Princess Luna nuzzled my cheek, then Tumble's, and then mine again. "Are you 2 all right? Are they treating you well here?" "Yes, we're going to be fine." "You shouldn't be here, Princess. This area is not that secure." "I have explained this to her multiple times, Major, but she does not take no for an answer," Midnight Snow said. Princess Luna glared and tipped her nose up. "I am ruler of a kingdom. I shall go where I please. Inspiring the troops is part of my job. I'm very inspired. Please put me down." Thunder Tumble whispered. The princess returned him to his bed, still holding on to me. Being held by magic is a weird feeling. It makes your coat stand on end in the same way rubbing a balloon on it does. You're supported all over. No one part is being pinched, so to speak. If it wasn't so unnerving, it might be enjoyable. Forgive my reaction. Your health and safety is most important to me, the princess explained. "Oh, yes, ma'am, I really appreciate that you care. Truly. I just like having the ability to move. Thank you for coming." Miley stood under the magic field that was holding me up and lightly batted at my back hoof. "Hi. Hi, Miley, nice to see you." "Nice to see you, too." "Major," Lieutenant Snow corrected. "Nice to see you, too, Major." Miley repeated. Princess Luna lightly scooped a wing around Lightning Flash and pushed him towards Thunder Tumble. "Now, I know a certain guard wants to talk to a certain soldier. We'll give you 2 some privacy. I'm going to take Silent Night for a walk." "Are you?" I asked flatly. Not that I had a choice. The princess trotted right out into the main corridor of the hospital with me floating behind her. Miley, Midnight Snow, and Div tagged along but gave us a little distance. You are injured again, she said softly. Yes, princess. I came up pretty lucky, though. The armor took the brunt of the damage. Well, most of it, anyway. You really should not have come here just for me. She levitated me around in front of her and peered into my eyes. Oh? Why is that? You're risking yourself to a Sudramore attack. They might be kilometers away now, but they're sneaky. They already tried to assassinate you once and we weren't even at war then. Yes, yes. Assassinate me, capture me, torture me. Midnight Snow has said the same things. Well, too bad, I am here. You cannot lecture me into not doing something I have already done. It serves no purpose. Can we not just enjoy each other's company until I inevitably have to leave? I see, actually, she had me there. She was already here. Okay, fair enough. How is life? Life is chaotic but occasionally offers me small miracles. Like when a beloved friend survives a horrible battle. Despite what was lost, I celebrate the small victories. How are you faring? Put on a strong face. You can do it. I'm suffering a bit. Wimp. Hush. I'm having problems keeping the angrier, less rational side of me quiet. I'll manage, though. There are enough close ponies around to snap me out of it. That is a good thing. How long will you be in this hospital? My nose wrinkled. A few more days and I go back on duty. No combat, but I'll be able to run my command. Princess Luna came to a sudden stop. So did I as a consequence. She turned and brought me close so we'd be eye to eye. I will recall you. Let me recall you. You can't. I am a princess. I smiled and reached out in the magic, stroking her cheek. You would deny your army, Dread Knight, commander of the Black Dragoons? How do you think that would impact morale? I went home while they had to stay simply because I am your friend. You are not Dread Knight. You are Silent Knight. Sweet, sensitive Silent Knight. Husband of Crystal Wishes, she frowned and sighed. But you are, unfortunately, right. Were I to recall you, it would be devastating. Assuming I could get Minster Sombre to agree, anyway. She shook her head. This is most frustrating. No argument here, but... Recall Thunder Tumble, immediately. Take him home in your saddlebag if you have to. Get him out of this horrible place. Princess Luna's eyes fixed mine, searching. Finally, she whispered, no pony will notice if I steal a sergeant. Do the paperwork later. No pony is going to stop you while you're here, and I doubt Minister Sombra or General Ironhoof will deny your request. One sergeant out of hundreds. He's still sweet. I don't want him to turn out like me, so, please, take him home. The princess's nose twitched and the corners of her eyes shimmered with tears. She blinked them away. Do not say such. You have not turned out poorly. She flew me close and embraced me. I will do as you've asked, but beg that you maintain hope. We held each other like that for a while. I almost felt guilty by the amount of relief I got from it. Crystal Wishes was the best mare to hug, of course, but Princess Luna was second, beating out Winterspear and Mother. I'd needed a hug. You won't consider, she whispered. I consider it every day. Every part of me but one screams yes. We both know I can't. Yes. I'm sorry. Me, too. We'd best get back. You need to get to safety as soon as possible. Yes, of course, she said softly before walking me back to the room. After gently setting me on my bed, she turned to where Thunder Tumble and Lightning Flash were sitting. Sergeant Tumble, you're being transferred to another hospital. We're going that way, so we'll escort you. Thunder Tumble blinked in surprise. What? No, ma'am, I've had my treatment here. Sergeant, there is some concern that the hospital here can't treat your chest wounds appropriately and you're too valuable to lose to something silly like that. Go with the princess and get it checked out. That's an order, I said before lying back against my pillows. Oh, Tumble said, looking down. Well, I understand. I guess I'll see you when I get well, sir. I nodded. Of course, Sergeant. Make sure the princess gets back north safely. I'm holding you personally accountable for her safety. Midnight Snow cleared her throat. Thunder Tumble nodded reluctantly. You've got it, Major. Flash, can you get my stuff? You didn't even have to ask, partner. Lightning Flash replied before getting to it. Thunder Tumble limped over to my bed and took my hoof in his. Are you sure? Completely. It isn't often we're given the chance to do the right thing. What about you? I chuckled. Come on, I'm Dread Knight. I'll be fine. See you when you get back. He nodded, squeezed my hoof, and then left with the princess and her guards. Once they were gone, I curled up tightly on my bed and buried my head under my pillow. Crystal's letter was there with her scent, but, instead of making me feel better, I just felt alone. Completely alone. Clement Knight trotted beside me in complete silence. You don't approve, I said. He didn't reply. Yup, you most certainly don't approve. Well, too bad. You're my new staff NCO and that is that. Clement may have wanted to be a frontline lancer, but he was old and getting slow. With Tumble gone, I needed a staff NCO that wouldn't always be in the thick of it. That, and I needed some pony clothes that wasn't afraid to hit me when I went weird. We rounded the corner to the tent city's main avenue and went halfway down before reaching our destination. It was the largest structure in camp even if it was canvas, like everything else. This tent served as an armory of sorts. Soldiers could bring in their gear to have it repaired or replaced. My case was a bit different. Hello, Major. Right on time. Come on back, the reddish-brown stallion behind a flimsy rope called. He led me into a small private area that had been created by hanging up sheets. A sheet-covered stand was in the middle of the room. I offered my hoof and he shook it. Good to see you again, Mr. Gear. You too, sir. It's been a while. Oh, and before you ask, no, your cousin isn't in here somewhere pretending to be an armorer. I checked twice. He'd put a lot of emphasis on pretending. I wondered why. In that regard, Helical probably should have checked 3 times. Runic was crafty. Either way, I chuckled and replied, says you. So, is my armor ready? Almost. I need you to put it on so that I can start making the final fittings. After all, I pretty much make this stuff to order. The Ministry of War isn't exactly purchasing dragoon armor in bulk, Mr. Gear explained before pulling a sheet off the stand in the middle of the room. There was a fresh set of dragoon armor there and it looked immaculate. Wow! This is mine? Is there anything you can't repair, Helical? Helical Gear snorted. Are you kidding me? Your armor was wrecked. This is a new set. I'm good, but I'm not a miracle worker, sir. Oh, well, good job on matching it, then. Sergeant Major, get me into this. Yes, sir, Clement Knight replied dryly as he helped me into a suit of chain mail. Once that was done, the two of them started strapping on the various plate components. Both of them were being extra careful. Helical ran a hoof along my splinted wing. This looks really rough. I truly wish we could have done more for you with wing armor. I'm sorry. I really am, sir. I think it does what it is meant to do. I doubt you tailored it for crashing into Griffin generals at full speed. Helical blinked. What? Is that how this happened? Clement Knight shook his head. Don't ask. Wings, by nature, are our weak point and the Major won't be needing his armor anytime soon. He'll be standing behind the lines. They said I couldn't fight. They didn't say stand around unprotected. Button me up, Helical. The stallion nodded and started doing his thing. You know, most ponies wouldn't get a single set of Cloudsdale steel armor, much less two. Call me lucky. Lucky. Very lucky, he said softly as he tinkered about tightening this and shoring up that. Clement stood close to make sure I didn't fall over. He was fussing a bit. I was still pretty strong, just injured. He'd been acting weird all day, though. I'd assumed it was because he didn't want to be my staff NCO. Eventually Helical Gear patted me on the back. All done, let's get you out of the armor and fit the helmet. I think you'll like what we've done. My ears perked at that. We. He didn't reply. He just helped Clement remove the armor. Have a seat, Major. I did so, watching him with a dose of skepticism. As far as I understood it, Helical usually worked alone. He was an excellent armorer, an airship repair pony, and anything with moving parts. He'd even worked on Brigadier Hammer's leg. It wasn't him I was worried about. It was the we. He returned with a dragoon helmet that looked, for the most part, indistinguishable from any other. The only major change was a blue line painted from the tip of the visor up to the ear guards. When it sat on my head I could barely feel any weight. If it wasn't for the fact I was looking through a visor, I would have sworn there was nothing there. This is an improvement, yes, sir. Cloudsdale steel, like the rest, but with a bit of tweaking from the newest member of the protective gear research team. Thus, the we can't get anything past you, Major. Your cousin can be extremely helpful when he puts his mind to it. He's figured out a way to lighten the steel even more without weakening it. Don't ask me how. The math doesn't add up. I turned to look at him. Runic did this. He sure did. And when I heard you needed a new suit, I figured I'd bring the prototype helmet. Runic painted that blue stripe on there. He said you'd like it. I took a breath and idly stroked the sides of the helmet before taking it off. Thank him for me. I do like it. I like it a lot. Helical Gear nodded. Yes, sir. His gaze then shifted to Clement. Clement looked really guilty all of a sudden. What? I asked. Helical squirmed a bit. Well, you see, Major, we have another bit of kit for you. The sergeant major there thought it was best delivered by some pony like me. You know, instead of a doctor you're barely familiar with, and a fellow Pegasus. All right, Clement set his hoof on my shoulder. Silent, you've been injured quite a few times. Mostly you bounce back, but the body is a fickle thing. Where was he going with this? And I asked the doctor to let me tell you. Tell me what? Clement, quit beating around the bush. I'm a big pony, so treat me like one. He winced. It was extremely slight and subtle but I caught it. Your wing. The doctor says it probably won't heal back the way it was. It just took too much punishment and it isn't the first time. You might not be able to fly, and if you can, you won't be able to do it well or fast. I mean, unaided, that is. I tried not to react but it was like being bucked in the gut. Flying was what made a Pegasus a Pegasus. Stratus had lost a lot with his knee but a wing. My wing. I was a strong flyer. I'd get past this. What did doctors know, anyway? My hoof clenched and I tried to calm down. I see, thank you for telling me yourself instead of letting them do it in the hospital. It was hard to keep the bitterness out of my voice. Helical cleared his throat. Sir. What? The other piece of kit. He went over to one of the equipment trunks, opened it, and just stared inside a moment. When he finally reached in and pulled out the piece of gear, it shook me deep inside. It was a wing brace. Helical cleared his throat. We've come a long way with these. I'm very optimistic that once you're well, you should be able to fly with this. Even in armor. Though probably never as well as why just put it on. Get it fit, take it off, paint it black, and fit it with the wing armor, I growled. Yes, sir, he replied. As he set to work, I felt another part of me slip away. I'd always been a skilled flyer. Perhaps not the fastest or the most maneuverable, but I could hold my own. This war just took. That is all it did. Why were we even here? The little camp desk I was working at wobbled too much. It was tiny and frustrating for a stallion my size, but I was glad for it. I was glad because it was the kind of furniture you used when your army was moving fast. Of course, that didn't make it any easier to write letters. And, more or less, I can fly well enough with the brace on, though I am saddened to say I may not be able to carry you any more, my love. It is my largest fear when it comes to this. What will you think of your handsome knight that cannot fly you into the knight's embrace? Of course it all remains to be seen, however, as they told me I'd never fly again without the brace, and I have proven them wrong. They do not know or understand the determination of the knight bloodline. Which was an overstatement to some degree. I could get myself off the ground if I was unarmored and unencumbered. It was unlikely I'd even be able to fly up to Cloudsdale, but then, I was still healing. It had only been a month. I had to stay positive. Of course that was proving harder and harder to do. Don't worry about me. I'll be my old self soon enough. The stallion you fell in love with. The stallion you still love. The stallion that yearns to return to your warm embrace and never leave it again. Your silent night. I folded the letter carefully and slipped it into an envelope. Sergeant Major, I called. Clement Knight poked his head through the tent flap. Yes, sir. Please take this letter to Sunrider. I held it out to him. This sort of thing drove him nuts. Here was a sergeant major. A combat veteran. Now he was a staff NCO and he hated it. Such was life. Yes, sir, he growled as he took it from me. Don't forget you have a staff meeting with Brigadier Hammer in half an hour. Oh, and, you know, the other thing this evening. Yeah. Thank you. Dismissed, I said before getting up and pulling my uniform coat on. I still wore chainmail under it, but it was a little too soon for dragoon armor, and we'd been doing a better job of getting to the Sidramore soldiers that had previously been sneaking through our lines. My mood soured quickly when it became awkward getting my wing through the garment. The stupid brace was large and unnatural. Eventually, I got dressed and trotted out of the tent. This base, unlike several of our previous, was barely put together. There hadn't been much of a need. After Drayrai River, General Ironhoof had started rolling through the light resistance. Of course we all knew we were far from done. We'd just broken a stronghold. I arrived at Brigadier Hammer's tent early. Not on purpose, I just didn't have anything else to do. Captain Bringia was handling most of my duties still. Knock, knock, I said into the flap. Brigadier Hammer looked up from his documents. I didn't flinch. Some ponies still did. One of the griffins had managed to almost catch the brigadier with one of the explosive spheres. Some of it had gotten into his eye and he'd lost sight in it. Now it was almost pure white, which could be unnerving. The other was still fine, but there was a different look to it, a sharper one. You're early. Yeah, I'll sit quietly unless you want me to wait outside. He shook his head. Don't be silly. Sit. I let myself in and settled in the back. All of the colonels would be in front of me. Hammer went back to looking at whatever was on his desk. Sorry about the wing, he said idly without turning around. Yeah. I can get off the ground. They said it wasn't likely I'd be able to do that. I'm still telling myself I can overcome it. If any pony can, you can. I need you to. You'll have to fly, brace or not. Yes, sir. He sighed and set his hoof on the desk. Do you even remember why we're here? Helping a friend in need. Yeah, that is what I keep telling myself. What sort of king starts all of this for some land? What sort of king asks for help and all this death to get that land back, and what kind of prin he trailed off when the tent flap opened again and Colonel Glamour came in? Sir, hope I'm not interrupting. Not at all, you're early. Take a seat. She did so, next to me. Nice to see you, Silent. You, too, ma'am. Although, in your case, regrettably so. She nodded. Agreed. I don't mind doing my part. I don't mind getting a promotion, either. I just hate to do either because some pony else was killed. Yes, ma'am. Well, regardless. I'm glad to see a familiar face. The tent flap opened again and the other battalion commanders started to file in. The brigadier's staff came, too. Once they were all settled, Brigadier Hammer stood up. All right, folks, we're going to keep this short and sweet. General Ironhoof is ready to invade Rhindair. We've got a long road after that, but merely crossing into the province sends a powerful message. Rhindair was where this whole mess had started. Southern Rhindair, anyway. There was a lot of ground between us and the border, and King Ranald would settle for nothing less than pushing the Sidra Moor back across it. The general has been busy and he doesn't think we can pull what we did at Drayrai a second time. That's okay, though. He's got a new plan and we're the tip of the spear again. I hope you're ready. Me, too, sir. Me, too. Author's note, some very special visits and some very bad news. If you are enjoying this story, please consider taking a look at Crystal and Maya's website quillenblade.com for extra content such as mini-stories, an Ask Us form to submit questions, responses to said questions, and special rewards for the awesome folks who support our Patreon. End author's note.